That Don't Sound Right is a podcast about talking the way we did before the internet, when you could not prove anyone right or wrong.
All the expertise was contained in the people involved with the conversation. I'm Peter.
I'm Cecil, and I hope you enjoy our conversations. And as you listen, if you find yourself silently saying, "That don't sound right," send us a comment. You're one of us.
Christy, welcome to the show.
Here, here. Thank you.
Did you say here, here?
Here, here.
Did you panic on air?
No, here, here. Like, here, here.
Here, here. Welcome back to another episode of That Don't Sound Right, a podcast about talking. We're your co-hosts. I'm Peter Billman.
And I'm Cecil Davis.
And we're just trying to have a conversation without Googling or fact-checking. Those things can so easily kill the conversation.
And again, here we are. It's week 2, and I don't have an example of a conversation being killed, but that's just what we're trying to keep from doing, is having people kill the conversation by whipping out the old Google cell phone and looking up whatever you're talking about.
Now, I will say the conversation has kept going. And that's why we're going to do a mailbag episode, because the conversation kept flying at us via email. It was great.
Right. We have the official mailbag now that David sent to us, an official U.S. mailbag.
Well, let's pull it out. And
let's
get some mail out of here. But I think we're going to need some help.
Okay.
And so why don't we have Christy Davis join us once again. Christy, welcome to the show.
Here, here. Thank you.
Did you say here, here?
Here, here.
Did you panic on air?
No, here, here. Like, here, here.
Here, here.
So you're here to respond to the very specific episode.
Yeah, and so instead of sending us mail, we're just going to have you here personally.
Okay.
To talk about the episode. So this is episode...
I do, but I want to hear what the mail... I want to respond to the mail as well.
We can do that. Okay, we'll do that first. We'll do some mail. So this is This comes from episode 120. The episode's called New Scott. That's when Scott Spickard called in, and he actually called in some 3 different topics we talked about. But one of the topics was, you will have a better sleep if you sleep with your socks on. Much debate about that.
You've got some good letters on that. Why don't you start off with the letters, and then Christy can build off of the letters that we had.
Because I was driving to Charlotte when I was listening to this, and I had so much to say. I think I was trying to voice text. I was like, Siri, voice text Peter and Cecil at the same time. Are y'all kidding me? Are you kidding me about these? And then, because Cecil made some kind of comment about, what is it? What you said something about.
I said that you would sleep better if you didn't sleep in socks.
Yes, you said that. I said, are you trying to provoke me? He was trying to provoke me.
That was very provocative.
It worked.
From Sean in Georgia, my wife's bedtime sock escapades are reaching legendary status. Days later, I discover mismatched sock pairs scattered like hidden treasures in our bedlins. Any advice on solving this sock puzzle? Maybe you can speak to this, Christy. You sleep with your socks on?
I do, but I wonder if she is such a deep sleeper that she kicks them off in her sleep. And I will not reveal my age, but as I have gotten a bit older, I wake up a little bit more during the night, and I consciously take my socks off when I need to take them off. And I carefully lay them on the floor for the next night.
So you do take them off in the middle of the night?
I do take them off. And I have special sleeping socks. You have to have special sleeping socks, like fuzzy socks.
So I did an experiment. Mm-hmm. I was inspired by the strong reactions to socks in the bed. I decided to do it. I decided to wear socks. Now I chose a merino wool sock.
And you didn't sleep?
Light, the medium weight. Mm. Now
Are they tight?
No, they're not tight. They're
okay.
They're not tight. They're snug. They're not loose because I'm afraid they're going to slide off.
And did you wear them on a cold night?
Yeah. In fact, I have to sleep. It needs to be cold for me to sleep. Mm-hmm. So I will I will move all the covers off of me except for a sheet. Mm. So I just sleep underneath a sheet in shorts and a t-shirt. Underneath the sheet. We got the house cranked down to 67 degrees. Maybe that's not cold, but it gets chilly. Because any warmer, I'm waking up in the middle of the night. Now, I will say I did this 3 different nights, and I had the same experience. While when I slept deep. I do remember having some intense dreams.
About being trapped?
No, that's right. By having my feet caught in the mud. No, I do remember sleeping deep, but I woke up at least twice all those nights. And then I immediately then I tried paying attention, sleeping with the socks off, and I slept through the night. So while I slept deep, I can confirm I slept deep. I still, for some reason, I woke up. I have a theory why it works for people, though.
Why?
I have a theory.
Why?
Okay. Are you sensitive to cold, Christy?
Yes.
Okay. My theory is that where your foot is sleeping in the bed, let me ask you another question. Do you move around a little in the bed? Or are you solid as a rock?
I don't think I'm solid as a rock.
You don't thrash, though.
Okay, but
I do not have restless legs like certain people have restless legs.
But you switch positions throughout the night. Okay. So my theory is without socks, your foot is in a certain place in the bed. And you've warmed that certain place in the bed to 98.7 degrees.
This don't sound right. The
surrounding area is going to be at least 70 degrees based on the outside temperature, right? If not 67. What do you turn your house down to?
65.
60. That's cold. So the rest of the place around your foot is 65 degrees. Now you take your bare foot and you slide it from a surface that's 98.7 degrees to 65 degrees. That's going to be shocking to you, and that's going to wake you up. But if you put a pair of socks on, you normalize that. Your foot is rarely ever touching a really cold surface. It can move. It can slide back and forth. It's not going to be bothered.
But you woke up with the socks on.
What's that?
Right?
I can't explain why I did it. I'm saying why this works for Christy. I don't doubt it works for you.
Your own proof of your own experience.
That's my theory. Well, I believe that's why it works for you.
All I know is that if I go to bed, even in the summertime, because the vent is right behind our bed, and if it's blowing super cold air over the bed and it feels cold, I have to have my feet warm or I cannot fall asleep.
There you go.
I have laid in the bed.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't sound right. Lane.
That's definitely not
I've been laying in the bed.
That don't sound right.
And have gotten up to get, you can attest to that.
I've gotten up
to get socks to put them on my feet.
Okay.
I have socks in my nightstand drawer.
You got backup socks.
I have socks in case I were to go to bed, and I'd never forget to put socks on. But if I needed a change of socks, there's different socks.
With any other sock litter?
You're not alone, though, Christy. You're not alone, right? So Sean's wife wears socks. So our international brand ambassador, our very own Brent Farmer, he writes, just finishing listening to the episode while in bed, wearing socks. Mm-hmm. I do like to wear socks in bed during the colder months. I have worn socks during warmer months, but that was because I had really rough heels and had to actually warn some holes in the sheets because of them. So we have some other ideas to fix that problem.
Yes,
but Brent,
I'm going to give you some socks.
Brent wears some socks. Brent
Yeah.
wears some socks for you.
All right, what else you got in the mailbag?
Well, I like this one. A guy from my hometown in Annapolis, Peter. His name is also Peter. Also writes he can't stand socks in bed. Way too hot. In fact, would lead to less restful sleep. But he also says I forgot to mention that in Annapolis, this is in the last, I think, 20 years, they have an annual sock burning, and it's to commemorate the sailors coming off the sea, and their socks are just not worth keeping, and they would always have a big sock burning to welcome all the sailors back.
Wow.
But that's what I would do
if you had to wear them
if I had to wear them at
night. Scott also had some responses to his comments from Samuel. Do you have Samuel's letter?
Oh yeah. So okay, right. So here's Samuel's. This is Scott's.
So Samuel and Phil are pro sock wearers, and Scott is not.
Okay.
Right, and Sarah is not.
I just want to say that this is one of the best letters.
That's a long
this
letter.
is one of the best letters we have received. And I asked for the honor of reading this.
Go for it.
Wow. Hey, Samuel.
Peter and Cecil. In a recent episode of That Don't Sound Right, a good friend of mine, Scott Spicker, decided to use his moment of fame to slander my friend and I's good name. My friends Phil and Samuel are really funny people, he kindly began, and I don't think I can explain their behavior with any science. Good gracious, the gall of this man. Jokes aside, my name is Samuel
Littauer.
And I am a new fan of the show. Love the premise. Y'all, I went to Appalachian State with Scott, and I'm good friends with Sophie. That's my daughter, Sophie Davis. Glad to be newly acquainted and a friend of the podcast. To be completely honest, I'm not married to wearing socks in bed. The only sock habit I swear by is the idea of sacred socks. Peter, I heard you and I are both fellow outdoorsmen. I got left out of the outdoorsmen somehow.
Sorry, man. You're an outdoorsman too.
So you may appreciate this sock hack. On a long backpacking trip, I keep my best pair of wool socks tucked away in the bottom of my sleeping bag until my final day of the trek. While packing up camp for the last time before hiking home, I'll put on those clean and pristine socks that I've been preheating for several days and hit the trail. The feeling is truly divine. This habit is sacred. One last thing. There's something that's been irking me. I've heard for the longest time that we know more about outer space than we do the ocean. For the love of all things holy, that don't sound right. A truly preposterous statement. I could go on and on all day about how ridiculous that idea is. But for starters, space is ever expanding while the ocean, with the exception of sea level rise, is not. Also, we can go to the ocean, but a voyage to anything worthwhile in outer space would last thousands of years beyond our lifespan. While I have lots of feelings about this, I can say that don't sound right on the mere premise that the ocean is mostly complete and accessible data set while the space continues to expand and is mostly inaccessible. I think that is an episode, Peter.
I was thinking the same thing.
Maybe Samuel will call in.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. We need to talk about that.
He's
Especially how gravity all plays into that.
Oh, yeah. We hadn't done the gravity episode.
Yeah.
Hope to stay in touch, Peter and Cecil. Thanks for making all of your listeners feel like one of us. Thank you for that,
That's
Samuel,
pretty
because
cool.
That's our whole intent is to make you feel like you're part of the club. I think Brent said to make you feel cool like smoking.
Like smoking in high school.
Like smoking in high school. Also, I will say that I started reading the book that Scott recommended in that same episode called
right.
While We Swim. I've only a few pages into it. It's very interesting. There's some things that I'll withhold comment.
Are we gonna? Maybe we'll do a bonus episode, a book club episode, right?
Yep.
Everybody bring your favorite.
Maybe not your favorite. Maybe the one you just recently tried to read through.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I've read through the first couple chapters.
Well, you're just about done. That's your typical reading any kind.
I read the title and the book jacket.
Paragraphs were done.
Right. Yeah. I now know enough to do a podcast.
Let's do it. I mean, that's how we got started.
Speaking of that, I've started listening to podcast, How to Improve Your podcasts.
Yeah.
Like you do. And I've listened to some really bad How to Improve Your podcasts.
Really?
Yes. Some terrible ones.
Well, like what were bad about them?
One of them, the guy was pushing an agenda that he had on about a particular topic. And so he would intersperse this pushing of this topic with little podcast hints and pearls. So he had like this pseudo shoe, and then he would spend most of his time saying, oh yeah, but in the meantime, let me tell you about this.
How long was this episode?
Episodes were about 10 minutes.
Is that all? Okay.
But the pitch for this other thing was like 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Get back to the mailbag.
Mailbag. Hey, let's talk about episode 121, cold showers. So Chris, which is a friend of yours from Alabama.
Yes, he is my double E friend. He's an electrical engineer.
I'm going to excuse myself because I have no comment on cold showers, except you should not get a cold shower.
There it is.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
In the studio, Camel City Studios tonight. No, that's my buddy from down in Alabama, who I was hoping would weigh in and support me on whole wild boar.
When we get to the feral pig episode,
feral pig.
I think you'll have someone in your corner.
Yes.
Yeah. So he does mention socks. No at home in bed. Yes, clean dry socks on camping trips below 40 degrees overnight. So he does have some requirements. But then here we go. Cold showers. The cold shower hair growth comment almost caused a medical emergency at work. And he also writes, cold showers, no. Cooler showers in the summer, but not cold. More room temperature instead of 100 plus degrees.
Well, no, my buddy Chris, he is one of the few people that know me when I had hair on my top of my head. And so, like,
Did y'all go to school together?
Mm-hmm, went to high school together.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yep. So, yeah, I've known him since high school. So most people here in Winston-Salem have never seen me with hair.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So that's particularly funny to him. There was this point in time where I tried to preserve what I had. Now, I never used drugs like Rogaine or anything like that, but I did try. I did switch over to cold showers.
Have you thought about you're a pharmacist. Have you looked into these compounds and tried to?
No. Once it stared going, I just shaved my head.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't try that. Other than take cold showers, I didn't try to hang on to it.
He's also talking about so again, my friend Peter Stone from Annapolis. He would say about ice cold showers. Couldn't agree more with you all. Nice and warm is the way to go. I did spend a year in Finland though during college, and there's something to be said for sitting in a hot sauna and then jumping in through a hole in the ice. Very refreshing.
I've seen people do this. I don't.
So Sean from Georgia, he writes about this. He goes, I might not be a pro, but my plunge into voluntary cold water immersion is worth discussing. I have done some pretty extensive study, and beyond the usual perks like immune boosts and stress reduction, I've got insights on the lesser known benefits like activating brown fat cells. Trust me, it's not just a chill, it's an experience.
Wow.
So he's
strong support.
Yeah, strong support, little research in there to support it.
Hey, and while you're looking in the mailbag, Lisa, our listener in the mountains, she always calls. She either call or text about each week's episode, so she always has good comments following up on on our episodes each Monday.
Your cousin David writes in
the haberdasher.
After listening to New Scott give his take on cold showers, I think that he definitely needs to come along to the Country Mile this year.
That's coming up.
I would suggest that he needs to get comfortable being uncomfortable. But after hearing what he does for a living, it sounds like misery is his business. If he can tolerate a soccer game, I'm not sure there's any level of miserable that's not beyond his capacity.
Obviously, Dave is not a soccer fan.
He's got some strong opinions about soccer, clearly.
But, hey, if you don't have anything to do on the weekend of the Country Mile, come out to the Country Mile.
As always, the show is never not funny, but I can't stop laughing about the Angels and Shepherds episode. And that is episode number 118, where Caboosel, that's Cecil's nickname, where Cecil sends the apprentice shepherd to find the sheep stretcher. One more side note about the showers, the episode 121 about cold showers.
Okay.
So listener number 1 writes in.
Oh, really?
He wrote in.
What's he got?
He says, this morning while taking a warm shower, I had a revelation. Back in the early days of TDSR, there was an episode about Cecil's door shower shattering.
Yes.
If memory serves, one theory was that it was caused by the temperature change from a heat vent or some such nonsense. Is this the same shower door that experienced hundreds or perhaps thousands of Cecil showers that began hot and ended cold? If so, I theorize that the practice of hot to cold showers is the real culprit in shattering shower doors. The repeated stresses of this temperature change exacerbates the slightless imperfections until one day the darn thing just implodes. It seems like you guys were a bit harsh on Big Shower Door in that episode, but I think this new information places the blame squarely on Cecil. I'm not saying Cecil shouldn't shower as he chooses, just that he needs to recognize there are consequences for his actions.
Well, I now have a curtain. I'm never putting glass up again. And you're right, I was pretty hard on Big Shower.
But he makes a good point.
He does make a good point.
He makes it. You cycled that thing.
You're right.
You thermal cycled that thing into oblivion.
I thermal cycled it and probably put a stress on some imperfection in that glass. But here's the thing. You should not have glass under pressure that can explode in a big sheet. And again, when I approached big glass, their reaction was, "Yep, that happens. What are you going to do about
That's right.
it? What do you want? What do you want us to do?"
The name of the art actually it was number 25.
Yeah.
What do you want us to do?
Right.
And Scott says, as a side note, this also proves that if you keep talking long enough, you'll solve any mystery. It only took 100 or so episodes to get to the bottom of this one.
I think he's right. But again, I am now saying that you should not have a big pressurized piece of glass hanging up in your house. But do you know, have you ever noticed that around your windshield there's little black dots?
Yeah.
Do you know why those little black dots are there?
I do know what they're for.
Do you know what they're for? They're for this reason.
Yeah.
So they're there so there's not such a difference in temperature from the edge of that glass as it moves toward the center of the glass.
That's
it
right.
actually dissipates that heat, so you don't stress the highly pressurized glass.
That's right. That's exactly what it's for.
That's what you should have on the shower door. You should have little dots all the way around. But as we know, as your son's car demonstrated, that glass is under pressure and can shatter.
Yeah, and his doesn't actually wasn't facing the sun. It was actually a cold day as he was driving along, and more than likely the warm defroster lines set it off.
Yep.
There was one mention of high five. So Peter, again, he wrote about the high five. And he pointed out that Mike Rowe of Dirty Jobs did a podcast on this.
I read that. And in his letter. Right?
Yeah. And it was evidently the Oakland A's in the 1970s. But he would agree that Scott makes a good point. Can you really claim that kind of human behavior? Yeah. I don't know.
I feel like claiming clapping.
Hard to say.
Like I invented clapping.
Right. That don't sound right. Hey, so I guess our last topic is episode 122.
Python.
That's right. Rock, paper, python.
Yes.
And it's the epic battle between an alligator and a python and the feral pig.
Yeah.
So, Chris.
My buddy in Alabama.
From Alabama writes, feral pig versus python 1-on-1. Close fight depending on who gets the drop on who. Head to head, feral pig wins. Python only wins by surprise.
Right.
Posse of feral pig versus lone python. Feral pigs win every time. Feral pigs typically travel in posses and packs. Peter was apparently an early turn-in guy to miss the pack of pigs in Florida he was hunting. I'll just point out, it was like 3 a.m., so yeah, I turned in early.
This is one engineer going after another engineer.
That's right. And for the record, my missionary friend, Andy, killed a very long, over 10-foot long python with a hoe in Brazil.
Really?
Yep. So I guess that tells me that it's not that hard to kill a python. And if a guy with a hoe can kill a python, then maybe a feral pig has a chance.
Feral pig trumps everything. I'm in a very serious argument right now at work about this.
Yeah?
About feral pigs.
I guess what I came up with, though.
Right.
Well, then tell me about the argument. What's going on?
I'm just pressing down on the point that a feral pig trumps everything. I saw a feral pig attack a woman in a mall on a clip on Instagram.
It doesn't mean he did anything.
He got into a mall.
He just attacked.
And attacked the woman.
He just attacked.
Smart, man.
She ran. She got
She
free.
didn't run. She got put down by
Oh, she did put down? No,
she did.
that's not good.
It's a terrible video. Feral pig wins.
Those are one of those reels that you have to actually click a second time.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's disturbing
This
images
one
by
didn't
Peter.
this one didn't have the disturbing images warning. And it's just all of a sudden I saw a woman attacked by a feral pig.
Well, this maybe to close, I'd like to tell you about the game we're going to create.
What's that?
So it's I was thinking about the idea of the game where you have basically it's kind of like collector's cards, kind of like Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
But you have all these animals, and all these animals have their strengths.
Yeah.
and weaknesses.
Yes.
And their strengths and weaknesses are dependent on the terrain in which they're encountering. And the way you play this game is you have your deck of cards, I have my deck of cards, and then there's another deck of cards, and this is the environment card.
Okay.
So you draw an environment card and you throw it down. Let's say the environment is a muddy river.
Right.
Then you look through your 7 cards that you've been dealt, and you try to figure out which one of your animals is going to beat the other. And at the last minute, everyone throws down their animal, and whoever has the best animal for that.
Does the group decide who the best animal is?
No, I think that's a good question. I think we'd have to have some metrics
that say this
animal is probably has.
Feral pig will be at the top.
Well, I figured you do that, but one of the things I wanted to point out. I mean, what do you think about this idea of a game?
Well, even during the episode, I agree. I think it's a great idea for a game.
I mean,
but the way you've refined it is even better.
Yeah, and you know how I came to that?
How's that?
I came to that in a warm shower.
Wearing socks? No, that's a great idea.
Because then I turned into a cold shower and I want to get out of it.
Have the terrain card and the animal cards.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's good.
And you just go buy, like Pokemon, you go buy a deck of animal cards, and man, you really hope you get the feral pig. Yeah. Feral pig's a very rare card.
Yeah.
It's very valuable.
Right. Only print a few of those.
Yep.
Yeah, no,
that'd be cool.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. Game. Yeah.
Now I think I'd put the honey badger or feral pig.
Well, it don't sound right, but do you have any more mail? I hope we hit everybody's mail this week. If you didn't, then write us an ugly email and say, hey, you forgot my email. So thank you for all the mail that you sent. I hope we got everybody's letters. We do read all the letters. We try to send at least an acknowledgement back, but what we try to do is save them and discuss them, obviously, on the air, because that's more fun. But thank you for all the letters. Samuel, thank you especially for your letter. That was a well-written letter defending your honor.
Hey, before we close, just want to remind everyone that you can spice things up for Valentine's Day by buying our merchandise.
I said it would spice things up.
Show your love with a shirt, a hat, pint glass, or a coffee mug featuring That Don't Sound Right. It is the perfect gift for the podcast addict in your life. Order now, make your Valentine's Day a little more nerdy and maybe a little more awesome. But before we close, we want to thank everyone listening. If this is your first time and enjoyed the conversation, would you consider hitting the subscribe button on the platform which you listen with? Also, if you're a long-time listener, we're doing an experiment. We're continuing our experiment. Giving us a rating and leaving us a review is helpful, but also promote us on your social media page. I've been doing that on my Facebook and LinkedIn.
I've noticed that, yeah.
Please do that for us. That'd be great.
Also, if you need T-shirts or decals, Wonderfully Made Designs is a small business specializing in custom-made T-shirts and decals. Contact Casey on Facebook at Wonderfully Made Designs 139.14. Use code TDSR10 for 10% off your first order. All right, That Don't Sound Right is a production of TSR Podcast in conjunction with Camel City Studios. I'm your co-host and sound engineer, Cecil. Peter is your other host and our web designer. Camille is our barista. Emily is our graphic designer. Ella does our Instagram. Giorgio tests our merchandise. Brent is our international brand ambassador who sleeps in socks. And as always, listener number one is
Scott.
So until next week, keep talking.
Stay curious.